Afternoon, I'm Tina Hurley, and I am the founder and the executive director of a nonprofit here in New Hampshire called Less Leg, More Heart. I am an amputee. I always joke it's the fastest 5-pound weight loss plan this season. I'm actually a board certified physician associate. I had practiced 10 years in acute care medicine, vascular surgery, and wound care in Manchester, New Hampshire, and then in Rochester. And at the same time that I was amputating limbs for a living as a first assist in the OR, I actually got a rare diagnosis that was vascular that led to my amputation. Mm-hmm. And it was just really mind-blowing. I was actually I got back to work in 3 months on a knee scooter, rounding in the ICU on patients in the same situation, but from the other side of the bed. And man, what an experience that was. Mm-hmm. There was no education like I received in those moments in the textbooks or in the classes that I learned. And a lot of it was kind of unfortunate. You know, I'm not sure if any of you have had the misfortune of having a chronic illness or having a medical emergency for yourself or for your family, but when you're going through that, it's so hard to advocate for yourself. It's so hard to understand what resources are available to you, what you need. Sometimes you don't even know what you don't know or what to ask. And you have blind faith in the direction of your life and your care and your limbs. And unfortunately, bad outcomes can occur and do occur. And then you're left with this lifelong feeling of regret and anger that you're trying to manage. And that's the case of anybody in a new situation with disability or illness or trauma. But we specifically focus on acquired ambulatory conditions. So initially when I started this organization 5 years ago, it was because I didn't ethically feel like the right thing to do for me in that chapter of my life after seeing the things that I had seen was to return to wearing my white coat and being limited by the provision of what I could offer by what the FDA allowed for me to give. Because there's so many things outside of that truly are needed for people to thrive. And if it's not a needle, narcotic, or a surgery, I don't really have the means to give it or fund it. I can identify psychosocial or socioeconomic barriers to individuals' care, but I don't have the time, and the system doesn't have the support to really help me eliminate that barrier. And so until I built a system to fill in those holes, I wasn't going to return back to practice. And so I'm still board certified. I still am really excited to get back to clinical, and we're on the road to being able to hire in the next 5 years so that can come to fruition at some point. We're 100% volunteer. We have 42 volunteers. We've helped 70 amputees this year and more than 300 since inception. We are growing all the time and always looking for board members and volunteers, and of course, like any nonprofit, donations and support of our local community, even in the smallest sense of being eyes and ears on the streets to find folks that are now in this limb loss community or pending limb loss. And it seems like a pretty small number of people, like a wild minority, but there's actually more than 550 people every single day in the United States that are losing limbs, more than 180,000 a year. So by 2050, there's projected to be more than 3.5 million people in the United States with limb loss. And we are not actively in a time of war. Things are trending that way. We won't need to get into all the politics. I felt the tension as you guys were mentioning it, but when war times happen, it surges as well. We support proudly veteran communities as well as civilian. My whole family are veterans. I'm the only one that got a mortgage and school loans, but I'm the only one that lost a limb, so they joke it was my repayment for not serving, which you have to learn to have a sick sense of humor when you go through some tough stuff. It helps you get through the days. But this has provided me an amazingly uplifting sense of purpose from all of the hardship that I've gone through. I had 13 surgeries from a rare condition. It's in both of my legs. The other leg will be amputated at some point in my future. But the lessons that I've learned from what I've had to go through and being able to serve those forward to other people so they don't have to suffer and struggle has really been so rewarding. And I have a 3-year-old son that has grown up, on wheelchairs and crawling up walkers and being in prosthetic offices, watching people with these really cool robot legs. And my adversity has become his advantage and the advantage of all of his peers as well. And so it's very much a blessing when you learn to view things through a different lens. Our organization really hopes to help people find that out sooner, and that you don't need, all 10 toes to leave a mark in the world. So the more specific things that we do is We have a pretty robust infrastructure. We use Salesforce, and we also use Asana for workflow management between our beneficiary relations, which is more of a clinical thing, and then our business side of things. And so when anybody needs help, if you ever found an amputee that needed help, they would go to our contact form on our website, lesslikemoreheart.com. They fill out amputee in need, and then there's a series of questions. It's just like easy metrics. And then that comes through our workflow management software, and it sets up a cascade of events that our intake coordinator connects with them, identifies very, very comprehensively their medical, their psychological, their economic, their social structures. We really get a full holistic view of all of the challenges and needs in that person's life. And then we do an award. And so we award them not just subjectively what they think they might need, but also objectively what we believe is going to best set them up for the next step of their journey, because everything is what is the next best step. And then we actually follow up with everyone in our program at 1, 3, 6, and 12 months the first year, and every 6 months after that. So we have, we always joke, it's kind of like a barnacle, and we're going to ride the tide with these folks as long as they'll let us stick on their rock, because like all of us, every need changes, your life changes, things change, and we don't want to just give handouts. Like, we really want to create a system of support that enables change to occur so that ripple can keep spreading. And we are IRS sanctioned for assisting anybody with an acquired ambulatory condition. So initially, when I started this as a non-businesswoman, just a humble medical clinician, I said, we're going to do all amputees and all spinal cord injuries and all neuromuscular conditions, where someone is normal and then you have an inciting diagnosis or trauma, and all of a sudden you can't walk and your whole life's upside down. But very quickly, I found out that that's a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And so we had to build, and we narrowed our inclusion criteria after the second year to make sure that we can do things with excellence and really manage the flow, identify, what is our hub, and what does a hub entail in terms of referrals from the rehabs and fundraising from our local communities, and then how do we expand those hubs, and then after that expansion, how do we add back in those inclusion criteria pieces. So we have really exciting visions, and money moves the mission and volunteers move the mission, and so we just always are interested in telling our story in case anybody here or anybody that you may know is interested in the cause, and you can always find us on the website. But thank you so much for having me today and listening to my story. It's really a pleasure to be in a room with a bunch of do-gooders, and I really respect all the work you guys do for your community.